friends, I am Arpit and I'm here with today's analysis. Today is 11th of July and we are going to deal with two very important topics which are in news. The first is India to ratify the United Nations High Seas Treaty. This treaty was signed last year, that is 2023, to protect the high seas. High seas are two-thirds of the oceans, having 95% of the habitat, but only 1% was protected. Since it is out of the jurisdiction of any country, it was a big question that who is responsible for protecting that zone. And for that purpose, United Nations had been discussing this treaty since the last 15 years or so. Finally, last year this came into force. 91 countries signed it and they had to ratify it. Now, India was one among those 91 countries and decided to ratify it now. Next is Order of the Saint Andrew the Apostle. This is Russia's highest civilian honor, announced for the Indian Prime Minister in the 2019 for elevating and promoting the strategic partnership which India shares with Russia. During his visit to Moscow this year, this was accorded to the Prime Minister. Now, since 2016, the Indian Prime Minister has received 15 civilian honors, some of them highest, some of them not the highest. But yes, they are civilian honors from various countries. Then we will be discussing the MCQs and then we'll be discussing answers to the MCQs which we did on 9th of July. Now, India to ratify this UN High Seas Treaty, the Indian government on Monday said that it would soon sign and ratify the High Seas Treaty. Ratifying simply means at international level, India is a signatory to this treaty. But yes, here at the, I would say, domestic level, we have to pass it from the parliament. That is what ratifications means. So, this treaty aims at maintaining the ecological health of the oceans. Oceans means the high seas. This is India. This is the first 12 nautical miles. This is called as territorial waters. The next 12 nautical miles, this is called as the contiguous zone. Now in territorial waters, all the laws of the land are, applicable. In contiguous zones, some laws of the land are applicable, some international laws are applicable. Then comes the EEZ, the exclusive economic zone, which is 200 to 250 nautical miles. Here, we can do economic activity. We have our exclusive right over here. Beyond this is the high seas, where no one's jurisdiction is. No one's means no country's jurisdiction is there. And for protecting the high seas, because overfishing, exploration, and extraction of sea minerals, deep sea minerals, and all, they impact the marine ecology, marine life. And preserving that is very much important. And for that purpose, this treaty was being discussed from the last 15 years or so. And fortunately, last year it got adopted. The developed countries were having their point of views, the developing countries were having their point of views, the island countries were having their point of views, and the point of views were conflicting in nature. That is why it took so much of time. The treaty negotiated last year is meant for reducing pollution, for conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity and other marine resources in the ocean waters. What are high seas? This is what I will explain, but yes, they are outside the national jurisdiction of any country. Means they are outside the EEZs, exclusive economic zones of the country, where no one's means no country's jurisdiction is there. This is also called as biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. It is formally called Agreement on Conservation and Sustainable Use of Marine Biological Diversity of Areas Beyond National Jurisdiction. The official name of this treaty is like this. We, in general parlance, call it UN High Seas Treaty. India, like most other nations, was a party to the nearly 15 years of negotiation that resulted in the finalization of this treaty. How many countries have signed this treaty? 91 countries have signed this treaty, and 8 of them have already ratified it. India can be the ninth if it is done as soon as possible, to which Indian government has said that they are going to ratify it. Now, this UN High Seas Treaty, 91 countries or nations signed the document. officially known as the Biodiversity Beyond National Jurisdiction Treaty. After agreeing to in terms in March 2023, following roughly 15 years of discussion, treaty is meant to prevent a cascading of species extinctions brought by overfishing, oil extraction, deep sea mining, and other activities with environmental impacts which happen in the high seas. And since no one's jurisdiction is there, then I would say that it should be someone's responsibility, and United Nations rightly have taken this particular responsibility through this treaty, and this treaty is legally binding. A treaty word, wherever it is, though that is legally binding. What are high seas? They make up nearly two-thirds of the world ocean, represent 95% of Earth's occupied habitat, but less than 1% of the high seas are protected. So we needed to protect the high seas. For that purpose, this treaty is. Now, about a treaty, it is the first ever treaty to protect the world's oceans that lie outside national boundaries. It is also known as the Paris Agreement for the Oceans. Paris Agreement for the Oceans means, like, for climate change, we have a very landmark COP, that is COP 21, Paris Agreement, we call it. So this is also a landmark treaty for protecting the oceans. That is why we are calling it Paris Agreement for the Oceans. It is a legally binding treaty that aims at protecting, caring for, and ensuring the responsible use of the marine environment. See, it is not banning you from any activity. It is just making sure that the exploitation and all is sustainable in the high seas. If you are going beyond the limits, there should be some check on you, which this treaty brings. The treaty is built on the legacy of UN Convention on Law of the Seas, UNCLOS. The division which I told you, 12 nautical miles, 24 nautical miles, 200 to 250 to 200 to 250 nautical miles, and beyond that is high seas. That division, that classification is given to us by UN clause, which was adopted in 1982. So this is 40 years ago, almost, and this UN clause only established that high seas, that area. Highlights, it aims to place 30% of the seas into protected areas by 2030. So this is also called as 30 into 30 targets, okay, which was discussed in UN Biodiversity Conference in 2022 as well. It will provide a legal framework for establishing vast marine protected areas to protect against the loss of wildlife and share out the genetic resources of the high seas. It also covers environmental assessments to evaluate potential damage of commercial activities happening in the high seas. Commercial activities are not restricted per se, but yes, commercial activities will become regulated. You should not go beyond this point. This is what this treaty is going to establish, that point. The treaty aims at strengthening resilience and contains provisions based on the polluter pays principle. So, polluter pays principle is whoever pollutes has to pay. Means whoever will be polluting will be punishable. Then the treaty offers guidance, including through an integrated approach to ocean management that builds ecosystem resilience to tackle the adverse effects of climate change also. So it is also taking into account the adverse effects of climate change. But basically that is happening a lot, like coral bleachings and all, they happen, or marine ecosystems, they get impacted due to global warming and all. Treaty provisions are also recognize the rights and traditional knowledge of indigenous people who are living in the coastal areas, and they know very well how to preserve the coastal areas and all, and this treaty is taking into account their, I would say, knowledge base as well, and it aims at fair and equitable sharing of the benefits of the oceanic resources. Treaty also considers the special circumstances facing small islands and landlocked developing nations. The small islands are at a threat of submergence, and landlocked nations, they depend upon other nations for you know their trade and all. They do not have any exclusive economic zone, neither a contiguous zone nor territorial waters, because they are landlocked. So they are devoid of all these resources, we can say. So this takes into account their concerns as well. It will establish a conference of parties, COP, just like there is the COP of UNFCCC or UNCBD. So there will be a COP of this particular treaty as well. But that will all start when all the signatory countries have ratified it. The treaty also includes a pledge by the signatories to share oceanic resources. So, sharing is caring kind of thing is also there. Need for the UN High Seas Treaty, was there a need? Definitely there was a need, because ocean and biodiversity comprise 64% of the ocean surface and about 43% of the earth is high seas. These areas are home to about 2.2 million marine species, which is roughly considered as 95% of the species which are here in the habitat of the earth. So those were not protected. Oceans and global climate. Oceans are integral part of the global climate cycle and perform a range of ecological services. And the climate change is happening. So the dynamics with respect to the oceans is also changing, which is impacting the marine ecosystems over there. So this was needed. Hence, this treaty is being considered as a landmark in its effort to conserve the entire planet as a whole, if I see. There were unregulated human activities which will now be regulated by this treaty. UN clause and concerns regarding biodiversity. United Convention on Law of the Sea asks countries to protect the ocean ecology and conserve its resources. It does not provide the specific mechanisms or processes to do so. This treaty is going to establish those specific mechanisms and the methods to do so. To do so means to preserve. Hence, it is believed that the High Seas Treaty will work as an implementation agreement under UN clause. This is similar to the Paris Agreement working under the United Nations Framework for Convention to Climate Change. That is why it is also called as the Paris Agreement for the Oceans. It was not signed in Paris, nothing like that. But yes, why Paris Agreement? Because the importance which Paris Agreement holds for climate change, this particular treaty holds for conservation of the high seas. Next topic is Order of the State Saint Andrew the Apostle. So Saint Andrew was one of the 12 apostles. Apostle was or were the original followers of Jesus Christ. So when he was crucified, after that, these apostles went across the world and spread his message. And Saint Andrew was that apostle which came to Russia, and on his name, this award is given, which is the highest civilian award of Russia. And this time, this award was given to none other than our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. So, this award was given to Mr. Modi for exceptional services in promoting special and privileged strategic partnership. This is how we define our partnership with Russia: special and privileged strategic partnership between Russia and India, and friendly relations between the Russian and the Indian peoples. So, it was like he is instrumental in promoting these ties. What is the award and who gets it? The award is given to prominent government and public figures, military leaders, and outstanding representatives of science, culture, art, and various sectors of the economy for exceptional services to Russia. So, if you open the list and see how many people or who all got this particular award, so you will find the name of Antony Kalashnikov, who is basically a military engineer who invented those AK rifles, AK-47, AK-56, and all. You could see a few names from of the opera singers who contributed culturally in Russia, and obviously various other political leaders like Mikhail Gorbachev and all were also there in the list. But the question is, can it be awarded to foreign nationals, or is it an exception in Modi's case? It is not an exception. It is awarded to foreign nationals, like the Chinese President Xi Jinping has also got it. The President of Kazakhstan, the ex-president of Kazakhstan, also got it. So the ex-president of Azerbaijan also got it. So it can also be awarded to the heads of the foreign states for outstanding service to the Russian Federation. Who was Saint Andrew? Now, its name comes from Saint Andrew, this particular award, who is believed to be one of the apostles or 12 original followers of Jesus. Now, after Christ's crucifixion, the apostles are said to have traveled to the world. And why? To spread his message. Saint Andrew traveled to Russia, Greece, and other places in Europe and Asia and founded the Church of Constantinople, which is being followed by the people in Russia. More than 90 million people follow church in Russia, this Constantinople church, out of the country's population of 140 million. So, this is how this is who you know Saint Andrews was. But there's a Scotland connection also, not with the award, but yes, with Saint Andrews. The UPSC can be innovative and ask questions, so you should know this connection as well. So, what is the Scotland connection? Saint Andrew is regarded as the patron saint of Russia and Scotland. So, Saint Andrew is responsible for spreading the message of Jesus Christ, specifically in Russia and Scotland. So on Scotland's flag, you see this cross, this X symbol. This X symbol on the flag of Scotland comes from Saint's symbol called the saltire. It is believed that Saint Andrew was also crucified on the cross of a similar shape. So it is why that is why this symbol is there on Scotland's flag. Now, who established this award? Who started giving away these awards? So Tsar Peter the Great. Russia was under the Tsar rule till 1917 when Russian Revolution happened. So he started this in 1698, basically. So he was ruling Russia from 1672 to 1725, and he started giving away this award in 1698, consisting of 17 alternating links and features the gilded image of state emblem of Russia Federation, and the state emblem of Russia Federation is a double-headed eagle. It also includes a badge, a star, and light blue silk moire ribbon. Those recognized for distinction in combat. If military leaders are recognized, the badge and star are adorned with swords. The order was abolished in 1918 when the Russian Revolution happened. Tsar rule was over. Socialist rule started. But again, it was re-established in 1998 by the President of Russia through an executive order. So from 1918 till 1998, for these good 80 years, there was no award given because it was abolished by the socialist regime which was established. The noted recipients of this award, past recipients largely include influential figures in Russia, such as military engineer and gun designer Mikhail Kalashnikov. So he is responsible for making AK rifles, AK-47, AK-56. Author Sergei Mikhailov, the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, Russian Orthodox Church leader, Patriarch Alexei II, and current head of the Russian Orthodox Church, Patriarch Kirill. They all have got this. The list is long, but yes, noted personalities only have added. Foreign recipients of the award, Chinese President Xi Jinping got it in 2017. Former President of Kazakhstan, Nuru Sultan Nazarbayev got it. President of Azerbaijan, Haidar Aliyev, he has also received it. And now in this list, we can add Narendra Modi of India, announced in 2019, but yes, given now. And here is a list of all the civilian honors received by the Indian Prime Minister since 2015-16. And you have to memorize which award is given to the Indian Prime Minister by which country. That level of, I would say, uh, knowledge should be there because UPSC can ask questions from here as well. Now coming to the MCQs, consider the following statements and mark the correct one. First is UN High Seas Treaty aims at ecological conservation of high seas. High seas are beyond the exclusive economic zones of the country. Relatively simple question. Out of these two statements, which one is correct? Consider the following statements and mark how many of them are correct. The UN High Seas Treaty is the first treaty for the high seas. More than 100 countries have signed the treaty in 2023. The UN High Seas Treaty is legally binding. So, how many statements of them are correct? Next is which of the following are provisions of the UN High Seas Treaty? It aims to place 30% of the seas into protected areas immediately. It is based on the polluter pays principle. It aims at equitable distribution of resources. And fourth, it bans fishing in the high seas. Which of these statements are correct? Only 1, 2, and 3, only 2 and 3, 2, 3, and 4, or all of the above statements are correct. Which of the following statements are true with respect to Order of the St. Andrews the Apostle? It is Russia's highest civilian honor. Narendra Modi is the second foreign dignitary to receive this award after Xi Jinping. So, which of these statements are true? You have to tell this. And the last question is which of the following statements is correct about Order of the Saint Andrews the Apostle? It was initiated in 1872 by Tsar Peter the Great. It was initiated in 1898 and has continued since then. It was initiated in 1998 by the President of Russia by an executive order, or none of the above. Which of these statements is true? Direct question. This is no combinations. Now, the MCQs for 9th July, we have to discuss them as well. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. India and Russia have ended their bilateral relationship and are now co-development partners with respect to defense production. This statement is wrong. India and Russia have not ended their bilateral relationship. Bilateral relationship continues, and you know, uh, co-development partners or co-development partnership established in 1998. So this statement is wrong. They have not ended. India and Russia are referred to as all-weather friends. This statement is true, and that is why this B option is correct. Next, consider the statements and mark how many of them are correct. India and Russia are having summit level bilateral talks annually. This statement is correct. However, no summit level talks happened after 2021. Russia-Ukraine war started and all. But yes, they are having. It has not ended. Russia is India's largest oil supplier for FY24. This statement is correct. Russia has a trade surplus with respect to India. This statement is also correct. Huge trade surplus of $61 billion in total trade of $65 billion, which we discussed. So all the statements are correct. This is the correct answer for this particular question. Which of the following defense products is under joint development by India and Russia? So this is Sukhoi Su-30 MKI directly from that slide. Which of the following defense products is purchased by India from Russia? The BrahMos, MiL-Me-17 helicopters, Ilyushin, or none of the above? So I think the correct answer for this is MiL-Me-17 helicopters. This is what we purchased from Russia. So that is it. Yesterday we had only 4 questions. And now with this, we come to an end of today's session. I will be seeing you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Yesterday, we could not do this session because of some health issues, but yes, we'll be continuing it from here on. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. Keep studying, keep reading, keep writing, and most importantly, keep revising, keep attending these questions. Namaste, Jai.